All right, everybody, welcome back to our 2023 reviews. Today we have the Chicago Blackhawks. They finished 30th in the NHL this season. And, of course, the Blackhawks, they were in their second year of the first year of the rebuild officially. And it obviously, I guess it's like their third year because they made an announcement back in like 2021, but they didn't technically start rebuilding until this year. So, yeah. But Chicago, they were expected to be bad. You can make arguments for Columbus and Anaheim being surprisingly that low, but Chicago, it was expected. Chicago this season finished with a 26-49-7 record for 59 points. They scored 204 goals and let in 301 with a minus 97 difference. They had a .360 win percentage. They were 14-23-4 at home and 12-26-3 on the road. Yeah, of course. I mean, there's really nothing else to go in depth with here because they were expected to be bad. They were expected to be a bad team, so there isn't any surprises here, really. They have the third best odds at first overall, which I think I had them finishing around this area. Month by month, they weren't so bad to start off the year. They were 4-3-2 in October. November took a dive. They were 2-9-2. Then they were 2-11-0 in December, a brutal month. They were 6-7-1 in January, 6-5-1 in February, 2-11-1 in March. So, like a lot of teams we'll cover in the next few days, you can see that they just plummeted. And then in April, they were 2-4-1. So, again, I mean, it was a bad year, but it was expectedly a bad year. I mean, they did the best they could. Luke Richardson came in. I thought they coached them well. They had some effort in the games they played in, and as well as that, too. I like the future that Kyle Davidson's pushing with this Blackhawks team, and I like the overall direction that they're going. So I expect it to, keep kind of trending in that direction. They're looking at the draft this year, acquiring prospects, all that good stuff. But, of course, this year was a year of, players leaving and kind of marking the end of an era in Chicago, which we'll get into in a second here. First off, though, your leading goal scorer was Andreas Athanasiou. Who either is going to get traded or will be signed back to a contract. 81 games played, 20 goals, 20 assists, 40 points. Always been a fan of Athanasiou, played a really solid season overall. But, of course, with a lot of the players being traded away at the deadline, like their point scores are going to look lower than they probably were come the trade deadline. But, of course, there is that to factor in. Taylor Radish was second in scoring, 78 games played, 20 goals, 17 assists, 37 points. A rookie there acquired in the Brandon Hagel trade, I believe. Last season, of course, played solid at points this year. Of course, one of those solid young players. They'll probably keep around. You have Seth Jones, who 72 games played, 12 goals, 25 assists, 37 points. Really solid defenseman. Expect that to keep going as the years progress. But, I mean, that contract just isn't as good as it used to be. Honestly, it just sucks. It's terrible. And Jones, too. I mean, he's not a horrible defenseman, but not the amount of money he's getting paid. Definitely not. Tyler Johnson up next. Until he got hurt, he actually looked all right, but then he got hurt, so that kind of affected everything. 56 games played, 12 goals, 20 assists for 32 points. Would imagine he stays around. Somebody who I can confirm is not going to stay around is Jonathan Toews. With 53 games played, 15 goals, 16 assists for 31 points. It was announced that he is not coming back to the Blackhawks. I watched his final game. Emotional, amazing player. Kind of marks the end of an era in Blackhawks hockey for sure. If Patrick Kane leaving wasn't that, then this definitely was. After that, then you got Jason Dickinson, my boy, with 78 games played, 9 goals, 21 assists, 30 points. You got Philip Kurashev, 70 games played, 9 goals, 16 assists, 25 points. You got Boris Kachuk with 58 games played, 5 goals, 11 assists, 16 points. In ninth in scoring, you got Caleb Jones, brother of Seth Jones, who had 73 games played, 4 goals, 12 assists, 16 points. And then last but not least, you have Jujhar Khaira with 51 games played, 6 goals, 8 assists for 14 points. Yeah, it was a brutal season altogether, scoring-wise, of course, when you're a rebuilding team. But really, up until the trade deadline, they actually looked all right. They had guys like Kane, Domi, Lafferty still on the roster. So, of course, those guys were racking up, they were racking up points and building up their value ahead of the trade deadline. And one thing that my podcast partner brought up a really good point, and his name's Jack. Shout out to him if you guys haven't already watched the Nordcast. There's episodes already up on the YouTube channel. But Jack brought up a really good point saying that the Blackhawks have done a really good job this year of bringing guys into one-year contracts, building up their value, and then dealing them at the deadline. They did that with Jack Johnson, Max Domi, and some other players on this roster who have proved to be very effective. So definitely they're really solid at doing that. And I think they will do that this coming season too. And they will sign other players in the offseason. And that's why I do think guys like Athanasiou probably will stick around. Next up, then, you got goaltending. Alex Stalock is the first guy I have here. 27 games played, a .915-2 record, a 3.01 goals against average, and a .908 save percentage. Stalock, in the games he played all right. Not a bad player, but of course, being on a team like Chicago, you're not going to have the best stats in the world. Peter Mrazek, then, 39 games played, 10, 22, and 3, a 3.66 goals against average, and a .894 save percentage. Of course, Mrazek was brought in, so was Stalock, so pretty much a whole new goaltending tandem. Wasn't too bad, but you also had guys come in there, too, like Arvid Soderblom, who played a few games. The last thing I want to bring up before we get into the future is the trades they made. They dealt Patrick Kane over to the New York Rangers. Really, in that trade, I mean, people complained about how much they got back in return, but really, they didn't have much of a choice. The Rangers were the only team they were going to get assets from. It just sucks that they couldn't get anything else back, but hey, at least they got something. Then you got Max Domi. He was dealt over to the Dallas Stars. They got Anton Khudobin back in return for that deal. He's a UFA. We'll get into that in a second. Jack Johnson was dealt to the Colorado Avalanche. They got Andreas Englund back in that deal, I believe. But yet again, another one of those players that was signed at the beginning of the year and then was traded mid-deadline. And then, of course, you got Jake McCabe and Sam Lafferty, who were traded over to the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, of course, they made some moves. The first year of the rebuild, you're going to see that. But, yeah, anyways, putting this really bad season behind you, this emotional season, seeing all these guys leave, let's talk about what their future is going to look like or what this offseason could look like. Of course, as it goes for a lot of these teams that are down below here, you're going to be waiting for the draft to come, which is in a few days. We'll make a video recapping that as well. They have 2 first-round picks. They got 4 second-round picks. They got 2 third-round picks, 1 fourth, 1 fifth, and 1 seventh. So this is the first year where we're going to see a lot of, moving up in the draft for them. I think those 4 second-round picks are going to either use them to their advantage or they're going to move up in the draft. One thing that with Arizona, what they did last year that I really enjoyed was seeing, the draft unfold, and that's going to be the most enjoyable part of the year for Blackhawks fans, seeing these new prospects come in. And who knows, they could get Connor Bedard, which would cause the hockey world to melt down. But yeah, looking at their UFAs and RFAs, their cap space, they currently stand at $5 million. So, of course, that number will change when all these guys leave. But you got Jonathan Toews, Andreas Athanasiou, Jujhar Khaira, Andreas Englund, Alex Stalock, and Anton Khudobin, all expiring agents. I would expect probably Athanasiou to come back. Toews is gone. That's already been written off. Khaira, maybe, but Khaira might want to move on to a better team. Englund, I wouldn't mind them keeping him around. He's more or less an AHL forward, but he was also a rental. Stalock looked okay in parts this year, so maybe they keep him around. But Khudobin, I expect to walk. Khudobin, I think, is pretty much done for his career. I'm going to be honest with you. As it goes for the RFAs, got Anders Bjork, Austin Wagner, Philip Kurashev, Caleb Jones, and Ian Mitchell. Honestly, seeing guys like Bjork and Kurashev probably stick around on qualifying offers wouldn't be so bad. Keeping some of those young players around just for a little bit, seeing how they develop. Because, of course, you got a lot of options here if you're Chicago. You can kind of go with anything. Just build off of the youth, honestly. Bring those young guys and keep them around. But, yeah, that's pretty much all I got. The last thing I have here is some of their future players to look forward to. You got Lucas Reichel, who played in games this season for Chicago. You got Kevin Korchinski, who was selected last year with Chicago's pick. And then as well as that, too, you got Vlasic, too, who could be a pretty solid prospect player there for the Blackhawks. But yeah, if you're Chicago, honestly, this is the first year of the rebuild. There is nothing really else to expect. Of course, we knew they were going to be bad, so that's expected. But if I'm Chicago, I'm looking forward to the draft for sure. And of course, with all the awards coming out now, and I kind of missed my opportunity at getting awards videos out there, I do want to start looking at prospect previews very, very soon. Most likely the 3rd round, but I do want to get some videos out there too before we start live streaming again. But yeah, anyways, thank you all for watching. For Sports, I really do appreciate it. The next one, I believe, will be the San Jose Sharks. But anyways, thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Adios.